abale ndi alongo tineneza kuti inuyo zoti kuli page ya My For Us simukudziwa tipangeni subscribe lero komanso lauzen kunena.
Good afternoon, I am Alex Banda and welcome to the lunch hour edition of the news live from Adbridge Center in the capital Lilongwe. Our top stories. Pressure mounts on DPP to provide answers over discontinuance of corruption cases linked to cabinet ministers. Health workers court Ministry of Health over blanket restriction of President Mutharika's executive order. And Zuzu City Council almost doubles its revenue from 1.6 to 2 billion kwacha in year ending. And in sports, Castel Challenge Cup final grosses 97 million kwacha. Now we give you the news in detail. The anti-corruption stakeholders are demanding answers from the Director of Public Prosecution, DPP, to provide clear justification for withdrawing from court two corruption-related cases involving sitting cabinet ministers and former senior government officials. Malawi Law Society Central Region Chapter Representative Bane Sempani and the National Anti-Corruption Alliance Chairperson Michael Gayata say failure to explain the decision risk raising serious concerns on the accountability and transparency in the justice system. The two spoke in Lilongwe during a panel discussion organized by the Youth and Society YAS to interrogate and see the progress made in the fight against corruption. Former President Lazarus Chakwera Chakwera's 2025 presidential running mate Vitumbiko Mumba and Malawi Congress Party Publicity Secretary Jessica Kabwila have this morning returned to the Lilongwe Senior Resident Magistrate Court. The duo faces fabrication and publishing false information likely to cause public alarm linked to the September 16, 2025 general elections. They were both granted bail on December 15, 2025. Chisomo Chungwalu was there for us.
Former President Lazarus Chakwera's 2025 presidential running mate Vitumbiko Mumba and Malawi Congress Party Publicity Secretary Jessica Kabwila have arrived at Lilongwe Senior Resident Magistrates Court this morning. They face charges of fabricating and publishing false information, which authorities say could have caused public alarm and disorder linked to remarks at a post-election press briefing in September 2025, where Mumba was heard to have mentioned, "We got this." The case stems from the 2025 general elections where Mumba ran alongside Chakwera, and the two publicly addressed alleged irregularities that the state claims were false and potentially destabilizing. Both were granted bail on December 15, 2025, with conditions including cash deposits and regular reporting to police while awaiting the continuation of their trial. The state is expected to submit the case disclosures during today's proceedings after being previously reprimanded by the court for failing to provide the required documents on time. One of the defense lawyers, Kumbo Soko, has told Zodiac that the defense intends to file applications seeking to have Mumba and Kabwila discharged from the case. Vitumbiko Mumba previously served as Malawi's Minister of Trade and Industry under the Chakwera administration, while Jessica Kabwila served as an MP and is now the MCP Publicity Secretary, giving both a high public profile. The court session is ongoing and further updates are expected once the state submits its disclosures and the defense applications are formally presented. From the court premises in Lilongwe, this is Chisomo Chingwalu.
Staying with the Malawi Congress Party, leader of opposition Simplex Chichola Banda has been appointed Director of Recruitment for the Malawi Congress Party, MCP, a position previously held by the late Madari Tsoka Zombo. Party President Lazarus Chakwera has also appointed 3 lawmakers into the party's Politburo. Details in this report filed by Wilson Alan Piri from Kasungu.
On Saturday, Kasungu MCP youth convened at district office to clean the office premises and raise issues affecting them since party leader Lazarus Chakwera was defeated in the 16th September 2025 presidential election. Speaking at the meeting, MCP Publicity Secretary Jesse Kabwira, announced that Chakwera has appointed Simplex Chitula Banda as Director of Recruitment, joining the National Executive Committee.
This is very good news because it marries Parliament with the MCP that's not in Parliament. It also gives a strong footing to the leader of opposition for him not only to be at the nerve center of the party, but be able to do his job with a good comfort.
Reacting to the news, Chitula Banda, who was the guest of honor, said the appointment signifies unity that is in the party.
Above all, the party that has got structures, it has got the human capital at each and every level of party management, area, constituency, district, region, and national executive.
Kabwira also announced that Chakwera has appointed Anthony Masamba, Lawrence Chakakala Chazia, and Edward Chileka Banda as members of the National Executive Committee. For Zodiac in Kasungu, this is Wilson Alan Pire reporting.
Still with politics, the Democratic Progressive Party's DPP Vice President for the Eastern Region, Bright Msaga, says the party is focused on winning all 3 vacant seats in the Eastern Region in the 17 March by-elections. Msaga said this yesterday during a rally at Chanda Ward in Zomba Chikomwe constituency. Apart from Chanda Ward in the Eastern Region, the elections will also be conducted in Chilunga Ward in Zomba City North and the Mikongo Ward in Mangochi Northeast constituency. And in Rumpi, aspiring legislator for Rumpi Central constituency, Yeremia Chihana has failed to submit his nomination papers to the Malawi Electoral Commission MEC to contest in the by-election set for March 17 this year. MEC constituency returning officer for Rumpi Central constituency, Joyce Banda, confirmed this to us, that Chihana did not show up during the exercise over the weekend. Brian Machere is on that story.
According to Malawi Electoral Commission constituency returning officer for Rumpi Central constituency, Joyce Banda, Yeremia Chihana failed to submit his nomination forms.
The exercise has been so good, and all candidates who collected the nomination forms have submitted their nomination forms, except one who collected but has not turned up, and we don't know the reasons why. Yeah, because the time is over. Had it been the still time, would have not concluded that.
Candidates who have submitted their nomination forms are Matthews Chinombo Mtumbuka of UTM, Lise Nkosika Mwendo Independent, Aaron Chidumba McDowell Mkandavire, Malawi Congress Party, Ponta Mbasali Nyerenda, Alliance for Democracy Afford, and Moya Walita Mkandavire of Democratic Progressive Party. In his speech, UTM candidate Matthews Chinombo Mtumbuka said now that he has submitted his nomination forms, the focus is on campaign exercise.
Yeah, they should expect that we are going to do a very serious campaign now. We've been doing in a very good mode, of course, but now we elevate it because we want to take this, because people of Rumpi want development. This by-election is going to be based on who gives the best promise for development.
The Malawi Electoral Commission is expected to hold the parliamentary by-election in the Rumpi Central constituency on March 17, 2026. For the best news in Rumpi, this is Brian Machere.
You are watching the Lunch Hour News Bulletin here on Zodiac with me, Alex Banda. Let's take a short break and I'll see you after that. Welcome back. The headlines again before we proceed. Pressure mounts on Director of Public Prosecution to provide answers over discontinuance of corruption cases linked to cabinet ministers. Health workers court Ministry of Health over blanket restriction of President Mutharika's executive order. Mzuzu City Council almost doubles its revenue from 1.6 to 2 billion kwacha in the year ending. And in sports, Castel Challenge Cup final grosses 97 million kwacha. Moving on with the news this afternoon. The Medical Doctors Union of Malawi and the Society of Medical Doctors say they will engage the Ministry of Health to seek clarification on the intent, scope and implementation framework of President Peter Mutharika's recent executive order. The union's president, Dr. Henry Makoa, and the society's leader, Dr. Victor Miti, have told us that they are concerned about what they describe as a blanket restriction on the ownership or shareholding in private health facilities by government-employed health workers. Details herein with John Paul Kayuni.
President Peter Mutharika's recent executive order on health services has not gone down well with medical doctors' bodies who are now questioning its intent and legality. The executive order prohibits all public health workers from operating private health facilities and owning pharmacies. However, the Medical Doctors Union of Malawi and the Society of Medical Doctors say they will engage the Ministry of Health to seek clarification on the intention, scope, and implementation framework of President Mutharika's directive, describing it as a blanket restriction prohibiting health personnel in public health facilities from running private clinics and pharmacies. We spoke to Society of Medical Doctors in Malawi President Victor Miti.
We're still wondering whether if someone has a hospital in Mzuzu and perhaps is practicing in Blantyre, if he may still have the same level of conflict of interest, either to influence patient from Blantyre to go to Mzuzu. So in our setting, we feel like there are a lot of unexplained layers within the order that need ultimate clarification for it to be justifiable and reflect the solution that it is aiming to address.
Health expert Maziko Matemba has since suggested the establishment of a special task force to oversee the implementation of the executive order's guidelines, saying this would help ensure transparency and fairness in enforcing the directive.
Government will consider having a special task force that can be discussing the loopholes, because each and everything has got its own loopholes, so that the implementation of the executive order, people who maybe are not aware or maybe they don't have any clarity on what is happening on the ground.
On Friday, legal analyst Justin Zonzi told Zodiac that President Mutharika's decision could face legal challenges, arguing that the order may not be consistent with existing laws. This is John Paul Kayuni.
Mzuzu City Council says it is happy that local revenue collection is increasing and has almost doubled from 1.6 billion last year to 2.04 billion kwacha this year. City spokesperson McDonald Gondwe said this earlier today, attributing the trend to willingness of property owners to pay taxes and revenue from commercial entities. Details in this report found by Temwa Nyirenda from Mzuzu, but read in the studios by Sarah Tembo.
Mzuzu City Council Public Relations Officer McDonald Gondwe says the council has generated more revenue, which has grown from 1.6 to 2 billion kwacha.
We have moved from 1.6 billion we collected the same time last year to 2.04 billion which we have collected to date. Yeah, this is a positive development in as far as the local revenue enhancement is concerned, more so considering that majority of the council resources are generated through locally generated avenues.
Chairperson from Mzuzu Urban Market, Alexander Sikwese, commends the council for surpassing its revenue collection target. He, however, wants the city council to improve on garbage collection.
We have only one skipper, one which they use to collect their waste matters. So at least they can buy one through their revenue. I think that can help, and that can make us maintain the city clean.
Social commentator Lakembewe says such an increase in revenue shows people's willingness to pay taxes and a demonstration of trust in the council's finance management.
The collected revenue must translate into sustainable development within the city council. And when I talk about sustainable development, I'm looking at the conditions of the roads within the city, street lights, management of drainage system, but also infrastructure development.
Despite the remarkable revenue growth, the city authorities are concerned with traders who still owe it billions in city rates, with the practice deemed detrimental to development.
And government says it is planning to build markets nationwide. Minister of Transport Japi Muhango, speaking in Rumpi yesterday, said under the Constituency Development Fund (CDF), the government also expects that city and local councils will prioritize the construction of modern markets. He also took time to drum up support for Rumpi Central Constituency DVP candidate Moya Walita Mkandawire in the forthcoming parliamentary by-election slated for next month on the 17th. He explains.
Well, we are in Rumpi today to canvass for votes for our candidate, Mr. Moya Walita Mkandawire, who is contesting on the party's ticket, that is the Democratic Progressive Party. So our coming here today was to engage people of Rumpi Central, particularly here at the Boma, to come out in numbers on 17th of March to vote for him for one reason. We want to transform Rumpi Central constituency, because that's where the Boma is, and for that to happen, you need someone who is very versatile, and we believe that in Walita Moya Mkandawire we have that type of character. So that's why we're here to ask people of Rumpi Central to vote for him. In so doing, we'll then be consolidating by the support base for the president of the party, this is Professor David Mutharika, who would like to have adequate numbers in parliament for him to be able to to pass bills, budgets in the National Assembly.
And Rumpi Market Committee Chairperson Kalumbambo Mbale has since asked the government to facilitate access to business loans and improve sanitation in markets. To agriculture, we look at cotton farmers in Salima who say inconsistent availability and rising prices of hybrid seed, coupled with the lack of reliable markets, are discouraging many growers from continuing with cotton production as the crop is no longer yielding meaningful profits. Vice Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture, Chigondi Kampachige Sale, says cotton remains vital to Malawi's economic growth, pledging that the committee will push for solutions through Parliament. We now turn to sports. The Football Association of Malawi FAM says it will seek an audience with Castel Malawi to review the sponsorship package for the Castel Challenge Cup as the current deal has reached its final year. Bright Kanyama reports.
The Castel Challenge Cup sponsorship by Castel Malawi Limited has reached the end of its initial 3-year cycle. The brewery entered into a 3-year sponsorship deal with the Football Association of Malawi in 2023, committing 1 billion kwacha towards the competition. FAM President Fleetwood Haya says the association will open fresh discussions with Castel Malawi with the aim of renewing the partnership.
Castel been sponsoring us, trusted us to say we can push their brand, and indeed this is the last edition for the Castel Challenge Cup, but we have already talked to the sponsors and they are ready to continue sponsoring to sponsor football. They are going to come up, we are going to come back to tell the Matthews to say what is coming next, but what I can promise is what is coming next is bigger than what we have.
Castel Malawi Managing Director Thomas Renault has also expressed satisfaction with how FAM managed the competition over the past 3 years. He said the company is impressed with the organization of the cup and is open to fresh discussions with FAM to explore the possibility of a new sponsorship deal.
I don't know yet if there will be the Castel Cup for the next season. We will do maybe something different, but also we want to say that for us it's a very big success because we start this game from the district to the national stadium.
The sponsorship circle concluded with the 2025-26 Castel Challenge Cup final, where FCB Nyasa Big Bullets defeated Goshen City the Dynamos 2-1 to lift the trophy for the second time. For Zodiac, this is Bright Kanyama.
Meanwhile, the 2025-26 Castel Challenge Cup final between Goshen City, the Dynamos, and FCB Nyasa Big Bullets at the Bingu National Stadium grossed about 97 million kwacha. Each team will pocket 16 million kwacha in a match that saw Bullets emerge victorious, defeating the outfit 2-1 to carry the Castel Cup.
The match grossed 97 million. However, this is not the figure that as Football Association we expected, because if you see the number of people that came into the stadium and comparing to the number of the revenue that we are declaring now, it's not making any matching or sense. So as firm, the number and the money that we got from that match, it's not matching.
This has been a recurring issue that sometimes people do access the games without paying. What do you think is contributing to these sort of issues on almost each and every game?
Yeah, there are a number of issues, but we would not want to point fingers or blaming each other. But however, we'll start maybe saying even the setup of the stadium, right? How the stadium was built. It's easier for someone just to climb the wall or even to open the fence and enter into the stadium. We saw a lot of people manpowering the police and managing to enter into the stadium without buying any tickets, even not verifying the tickets. So there are a lot of factors, but as I'm saying, we're not trying to point each other fingers. Yeah, but we had some challenges which we saw at the.
And that's what we had time for in this live lunch hour edition of the news. But before we go, a recap of the headline stories. Pressure mounts on Director of Public Prosecution to provide answers over discontinuance of corruption cases linked to some cabinet ministers. Health workers court Minister of Health over blanket restriction of President Peter Mutharika's executive order. In Mzuzu, the City Council almost doubles its revenue from 1.6 to 2 billion kwacha in year ending. And in sports, Castell Challenge Cup final grosses 97 million kwacha. You can visit www.zodiackmalawi.com for more on these and other stories. My name is Alex Panda. Thank you for watching. Good afternoon.
Tikuthokozeni pa isankho chanu chomwe munasankha pokhala ndife amayi for us. Zomwe ambiri takuthokozani.